Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Hyman Brand Hebrew Academy's 2022 graduation ceremony. At this time, please be sure to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. And please welcome Rabbi Glass from Congregation BIAV to do the Devar Torah for the evening. Following the Devar Torah, please rise as the siblings of the graduates will be leading us in Hatikva and the national anthem with Jeannie Frank accompanying them on the piano.
First, I want to wish a tremendous Mazal Tov to you, the class of 2022, on arriving at this momentous occasion. And to your parents, your families, your teachers, all those who have brought you to this point, Mazal Tov. We find ourselves in the Jewish calendar amidst Sfirat HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, where for each and every day between Passover and Shavuot, we count the days and also the weeks for a total of 49 days, a total of 7 weeks. And as easy as it sounds on paper, it's surprisingly difficult to consistently do something for a couple of months. It's tricky. Many people forget to count each and every day. Yet, despite the achievement that completing Sfirat HaOmer is, there's no major celebration, there's no moment to reflect on what has been accomplished. We just transition straight into the festival of Shavuot. Why? Why don't we take some time to celebrate the consistent effort of counting the Omer day in, day out? There is a simple yet powerful answer, one with tremendous resonance, particularly for you, the class of 2022, as we celebrate your graduation. The reward, the celebration for completing Sfirat HaOmer is the festival of Shavuot. Because Shavuot is the day that we celebrate the giving of the Torah and the responsibility, the duty that comes with that. Celebrating Shavuot is celebrating the completion of the Omer, because by completing the count, we have fulfilled our responsibility, the very thing we celebrate on the festival of Shavuot. To you, the class of 2022, your educational journey is a lot like the obligation of Sfirat HaOmer. It has required day in, day out dedication to your education. And even though in this case, we do celebrate your completion, the true reward for finishing high school is the responsibility and adulthood that come with graduation. Now is the time to not only celebrate what you have done, but what you will do. Those things you will achieve in this world that stem from recognizing your responsibility to yourselves, to the Jewish people writ large, to humanity. And so I want to wish you a Mazal Tov on reaching not only this moment, but also for all those things that will happen from this point on. Because as joyous as it is to celebrate what you have already achieved, what you will go on to do, the responsibility with which you have now been invested, is a cause for an even greater celebration. Mazal Tov.
Good evening. I am honored to share some thoughts with you about the class of 2022 who are up here on the stage with me. Soon, they will individually share their own stories and wisdom. But before that, I want to let you know some amazing things about this group. Celebrating their success and thinking about their 4 years in the upper school, along with many long careers at HBHA, led me to think back upon this group's civil rights trip that sadly wasn't meant to be. After learning and preparing for months, and then traveling 600 miles on our first day, the world changed. And we came home to the realities of life in a pandemic for which none of us had any comparable experience to draw from. That was 26 months ago. Many of you had recently turned 16, and the adult world was still off in the distant future. One of the places on that journey we were meant to visit was the Legacy Museum and the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, founded by the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. Founder Brian Stevenson, who you all learned about in the lessons leading up to the trip, has an incredible quote that I think will help me speak about you as a particular group of HBHA graduates. He says, "Each of us is more than the worst thing we have ever done." Again, each of us is more than the worst thing we have ever done. Mr. Stevenson uses this quote to help us understand why the Equal Justice Initiative is willing to work with death row inmates and juveniles who have been sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Some are even guilty of the crimes for which they serve time in prison. But the EJI team still sees in each of them a human being entitled to advocacy and legal counsel. So I would still posit that there is value in exploring this quote even without knowing about the work of EJI. Students, I'm sure you, like me, can all think about the things you have done for which you have sincere regrets, or know that you fell far short of yours or others' expectations. And sometimes we can even really get bogged down by the feelings and emotions that go with our worst moments. Further, I am sure that any of you would want everyone here now and those in your future life to give you some leeway for your mistakes and a future opportunity to show something much more than your worst. Perhaps even moments that you would define as close to your very best. But it is not enough to simply want that for yourself. Belief in this concept means that you must be willing also to give that same measure to others. So in thinking even more about you all as a group, I would like to offer two corollaries to the quote that I believe can speak directly to you as individuals and as a group, connected to your experiences throughout your time at HBHA. Corollary number one: each of us is more than the worst characteristic of the way we see ourselves. You are a group that has sometimes struggled to get out of your own way or let go of some of your, "but let me explain why I can't" attitudes. I actually believe that these less than ideal characteristics may actually just be hidden strengths that you have yet to embrace and then utilize as launch pads for your superpowers when you go into the adult world. To be specific, I think many of you have doubts about some particular academic skill you might not fully trust in yourself, and whether or not you are really prepared for the future. Hogwash, I tell you, and here's why. While it may be true that a large majority of you have had continuous support, love, and guidance from the glittery and glamorous Mrs. Severin, and many others, in the end, 100% of you have completed a college-level course during high school, and 75% have completed 2 or more. 4 of you took JCCC courses this year that now tie directly to the majors or careers you wish to pursue. Ask the older adults in the room if we all did this at your age. So say yes to the support, but also yes to the challenge, because you've already proven to yourselves that you are ready, capable, prepared, and able to use your passions to explore above the expectations of HBHA's curriculum. Several of you made your way from Mechina Hebrew to Miss Meltzer's on-level course, showing that determination and desire can lead to leaps and bounds of growth. While few would classify you as a highly athletic group, they did come close in the soccer game. The truth is that 75% of you earn varsity letters, and 2 of you are clearly accomplished in ways that outpace peers for most HBHA classes. And while I could go further and discuss challenges with handwriting, me too, organization and time management, the truth is that the recognition and awareness of these perceived deficits, along with your willingness to embrace and manage any of them, will, I promise you, lead you to look at any deficits or challenges as mere opportunities to prove to yourself that you will succeed regardless of these worries. Furthermore, you're a group that had messaging around mental health through UBU and sources of strength throughout high school, and within the social emotional challenges of this crazy pandemic. What is inspiring to me is that you are a group that has mostly broken the stigma around taking care of your emotional needs, in the same way you take care of other wellness needs. That is a lesson that should carry you far forward in the next chapter of your life and sets an incredible example for others. As individuals and a group, you see a new world of gender expansive and inclusive norms as simply the right thing for our 21st century world. And the expression of your deepest selves around love and companionship are ways in which you demonstrate the maxim, and both parts of it, loving your neighbor as yourself. Corollary number 2. Each of us is more than the worst circumstances of our upbringing. As each of us grows, there are many circumstances that can make our development into adulthood more complicated. Whether that be situations within our families, moving to new places or schools, upheaval in the world around us, really any significant disruptions to what might be considered normal. All of these can and do have consequences to the way we see ourselves. But once again, I challenge each of you to look deeper at what might be the worst circumstances and how these might actually be points of resilience that you will use in your future lives. In fact, all of you should look at where you are now, even with the things you would identify as your own worst circumstances, whether they be close to home or part of the larger ethos in which you grew up. For instance, in the larger world, you have grown up in a time where the climate is changing and real consequences are something you studied through our social justice project. But then you helped create an advocacy public service announcement video, met with local elected officials, and pushed for real policy changes. Climate change may seem like an impossible situation, but I will share with you some hope that sits right here in the state of Kansas. In 2010, when you were in first grade, Governor Sebelius proposed that Kansas could get 20% of its electricity from wind by 2020. Guess what? She vastly underestimated how quickly this change could happen. By 2019, Kansas led the United States in producing over 40% of its electricity from wind, and the total potential capacity of wind energy just in this state that we're in right now could power 75% of all the electricity in the entire United States. Second, the circumstances of the COVID pandemic have most certainly had a dampening effect on your lives over the past 2 years. But again, there is hope. When you recognize that the technological advances of the mRNA vaccines that were developed in your lifetime have saved millions of lives around the globe and will also lead to other amazing medical advances that will make the world healthier and able to combat future viruses, cancers, and other debilitating diseases in ways that were unimaginable to your parents and grandparents. So, as I'm about to turn over the microphone to all of you, I beam with hope in what you have made it through and what promise I believe you individually and collectively will bring to the larger world. Take your ram spirit and embrace becoming a blue hen, or a tiger, or an owl, or a kaboom, really, or a miner, or a wildcat, or as one of the many Jayhawks in the bunch. Because you deserve the opportunities that are next and are very ready for all of them. There is one last group I want to acknowledge before we hear from the seniors. This year, 5 students on stage are the youngest in their family to graduate from HBHA, and for their parents, this will be their final HBHA event. I would like to ask these parents to stand and remain standing as I honor you for your dedication to our school and community. Ala and Bram Wymans, 7 years. Julie Johnson, 11 years. Michal Luger, 11 years. Brad Klinek and Jackie Farmer, 14 years. And finally, and sadly, Brian and Sherry Bell, 17 years. We all say repeatedly that HBHA is a family, and we certainly will always hold a special place in our hearts for you and your families as you complete your HBHA education. But it is also your commitment to our mission as a community Jewish day school that sets you apart. Your trust and your partnership are truly remarkable and appreciated, and we all thank you. So now, let's hear directly from the class of 2022.
My first week of kindergarten was an eventful time. I was away from my parents for the entire day, I didn't know anyone there, and I was terrified. We got assigned into our groups, green, orange, and blue. I was placed in the green group, and I was fine with that, as I actually liked that color. Shortly thereafter, the teachers realized that there were too many people in the green group, so they switched me to orange, my least favorite color. And despite this being such a small, insignificant change, I sat down at a table and I cried. A few minutes later, a girl came up to me and said, "Hi, I'm Maddie, I'm in the orange group." She sat down and talked to me about another friend she'd recently made and how they would like for me to join them to play at the next recess. This was just the beginning of the wonderful friendships I would form in school and how we would always be there for each other. Over the last 13 years, the people on stage with me have become the people I look to when I'm feeling upset over something, the people I can talk to no matter what the topic is. My friends are some of the most important people in my life. We've been through so much together, from that first week of kindergarten to graduating, and so many other events in between. There's no good way to sum up what I've learned in my years at HBHA in just 2 minutes. I know I've strengthened my relationships with my parents, my brother, and my friends. But I think the most important thing is what I've learned from that first week of kindergarten. One of the things I've become better at is making friends, and I know that this is because of what I've experienced at HBHA with my classmates. When I went to a summer creative writing camp, I was a bit timid at first. I wondered what people would think of me and how I could make new friends. Then I saw another girl sitting by herself, just watching everyone. I thought that she must also be a bit nervous with all the new people around her, so I walked up and I introduced myself. I hope I was able to help her in the way that little kindergarten me would have loved. If I were to meet that scared little girl that I was now, I would tell her that she would become more confident than she believed to be possible, and she would have the friends that I always hoped for. I like to think she'd be proud of how far I come through my own strength and with the help of those around me. Thank you.
Hay mariposas, no se aguanten más, hay que crecer aparte y volver, hacia adelante seguirás, ya son milagros, rompiendo crisalidas, hay que volar, hay que encontrar su propio futuro. Hay mariposas, no se aguanten más, hay que crecer aparte y volver, hacia adelante seguirás, ya son.
Cool. All right. There are a lot of people I would like to thank for getting me where I am today. The people in my life have filled me with so much love and support that a simple thank you isn't enough. I would like to focus on one person and try to take this time to thank them in a way that means so much more than just two simple words. This person's name was Stacy Bell. My Aunt Stacy taught me so much about how to be a better person, and not just by her words, but by her actions. My aunt and I had a tradition every Purim where we would make hamantashen. The first year we did this, I remember us making so many, way more than just two people could eat. I was confused why we had made what seemed like thousands of hamantashen for just the two of us. When I asked my aunt, she said it wasn't just for us. We packed the majority of the hamantashen into bags to give to our whole family, plus my aunt's friends at the synagogue and anyone else who wanted some. At the time, I was content with the fact that the ridiculous amount of hamantashen did have some sense to it. But today I look back on it, honored that she would include me in one of her amazing acts of kindness she performed every day, honored that I was able to do it with such an amazing woman. The hamantashen story is just one of the ways that my aunt passed her values on to me. In addition, Aunt Stacy also hosted many holiday celebrations that included both family and outside friends. This was yet another way that everyone was accounted for. No one was left out. This level of selflessness and inclusivity is something I aspire to reach. In Rabbi Glickman's eulogy, he said, "In the area of love, she was a giant." Nothing describes my aunt better, and it is something I hope will apply to me as well. My Aunt Stacy taught me to value kindness and generosity to the point where they are two of the most important aspects I hold for my own character and for the characters of the people I choose to surround myself with. My aunt loved and cherished our family, and today I stand up here filled to the brim with that love to remember how lucky I am to have known her and to project that love as I take my next steps out of HBHA and into the world. And I ask you, the audience, to not only remember my aunt, but to live as she did, to project kindness into the world and cherish the people you surround yourself with, to understand before judging, and to find small ways to make the world around you a better place. Thank you.
At the age of 5, I entered the prestigious kindergarten of Hyman Brand Hebrew Academy. I have to admit, I know that people say they had no idea what school was going to be like when they were younger, but I literally had no idea what it was. I didn't know that it had anything to do with education. I didn't even know the word education. I honestly thought that it would have some semblance of Sesame Street and that Big Bird would watch over us all day. So you could say I was a bit surprised when I got to kindergarten and started learning about letters and planets. Nonetheless, I persevered, and if it meant learning about letters and planets, that was something I was willing to do. However, whenever 6-year-old me pictured myself in the future, I always skipped over the vast majority of senior year. I would imagine strolling through the hallway like a celebrity on my first day as a senior, and I would imagine every single set of eyes on me as I received my diploma from some random tall man. Additionally, as I progressed through my younger years in school, I became more aware of the existence of college. Naturally, I understood that I would most likely be going to Harvard. But by the time junior year rolled around, I'd moved on to more prestigious colleges like the University of Kansas and Union College. Walking down the hallway like a celebrity in senior year turned into running like a hoodlum trying to make it to statistics once I heard the warning bell. As for graduation, I forgot about it, or more accurately, it wasn't on my mind. Between freshman year and a few months into senior year, I put off trying to figure out what I was going to do after high school. I figured it would just come to me one day. This is the part that everyone leaves out. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of things that I'm interested in, but until I was looking through the options of what I could put on my college application, it hadn't seemed entirely real. So I went with professional carrot peeling. But after reading about the average starting salary for professional carrot peelers, I decided that mechanical engineering would be a better option. In reality, I've gone through my life figuring things out as I go along. Whatever I end up doing, if it's professional carrot peeling or mechanical engineering, it will be a learning experience, and I'll have a lot of fun in the process. Not every 18-year-old, or in Aaron's case, 17-year-old, knows what the rest of their life will look like. The important part is understanding how to go through life, not knowing exactly how it's going to end up. Thank you.
I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me now. If you wanna have a good time, just give me a call. Don't stop me 'cause now. I'm having a good time. Don't stop me yes, now. I'm having a good time. I don't wanna stop at all. Yeah. I'm a rocket ship on my way to Mars on a collision course. I am a satellite. I'm out of
Wow, I never thought this day would come, finally standing on this stage reflecting on the past 13 years I've spent in this building. I remember the first time I walked in as a kindergartner with my tote that was probably as big as I was. However, the thing that stands out most to me looking all the way back is that I remember the first time they told us that we were the class of 2022, and it always seemed like 2022 was so far into the future. And then, in the blink of an eye, senior year started, and not long after, 2022 was upon us. And I just remember thinking to myself, where did all the time go? Freshman year, I really wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to help people find the answers to the biggest questions in life. Then sophomore year came along, and chemistry with it. And let's just say while taking chemistry that I wanted to be a doctor train derailed quite quickly. And my passion for politics took over. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say it has definitely been an interesting past couple of years in that department. After some time of uncertainty, I realized that I wanted to be a lawyer. I mean, come on, it's perfect for me. I will argue about almost anything. Finally, I want to say that every single teacher that I have had has had a massive impact on me as a person. I personally believe that this is because of the ability that the school gives us students to have one-on-one relationships with our teachers. I also believe that without me being able to talk to teachers like this, I would not be on the path that I am today. From the countless in and out of class political and philosophical discussions with Dr. Bannon to collecting Keypote from Miss Bratt on a regular basis and everything in between, I'm so incredibly grateful for everything that I have been able to experience during my time at HBHA. Thank you.
You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. Yeah, 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 yeah. I got you, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating.
Can anyone tell me how to spell dog? With no response, we would move on to the next word. This was a typical third grade day back for me in the fall of 2012 in Charlotte, North Carolina. Every day, a constant struggle to spell basic words at a kindergarten level. Write more than 2 sentences or complete basic mathematics. At the time, I didn't truly understand the gravity of my situation in elementary school, under the childish notion that this was normal. Everyone had the same problems I did, and this was just how school works. Under the guise of my teachers, both my parents and I were led to believe that my progress was on the right track, even though my academic testing clearly showed otherwise. And then, everything changed. My parents had had enough, pulled me out of school, and made a bold decision to homeschool me. A risk that, without taking, I would never have become the honor student I am today. In homeschool, lessons finally began to click. I began understanding basic concepts that I had struggled with for so many years in elementary school. Instead of only being able to write 2 sentences, I was able to write entire stories. I could do math in my head for the first time, and I began retaining information that I had learned. Homeschool brought my head out of the water and changed me. By the time 6th grade rolled around, I was fully ready for my transition back to a traditional school. I enrolled in Hyman Brand Hebrew Academy, equipped with the tools and knowledge from homeschool that allowed me to succeed. I took advantage of STAR Challenge program in middle school, which was a more extensive English program to further my writing skills. Then, in high school, I took honors classes and finally scored a 5 on the AP English exam, something that I never would have thought possible back in 3rd grade, when I could barely spell cat. Now, I write poetries and stories, I code, I have a strong love for science and space, and derive great interest from film. I truly have come a long way from where I started. My educational experience thus far has been a bit non-traditional. Yet, it was the constant support from my parents and educators after leaving my elementary school that allowed me to succeed at Hyman Brand. The decision to put me into homeschool was one that wasn't met with total support. Many people were confused and concerned about my parents trying a new system that differed from the social norm. However, I believe people don't easily just fit into boxes. Sometimes it takes a bold, outside-of-the-box move to help anyone become the person that they not only want to be, but the person that they were meant to be. Thank you.
I'm amazed I made it to graduation. I mean, obviously I made it, but between juggling multiple AP class loads, managing family responsibilities, and balancing the time for extracurriculars, as well as a job, it was a lot to handle. When I imagined this very moment during freshman year of standing on this stage, when I went to my first honors assembly in HBHA graduation, I heard the various impressive accomplishments that past HBHA graduates had made, and I thought to myself, there is absolutely no way I can do any of this. But I'm proud of the personal growth that I've made since freshman and sophomore year. I used to worry that I would never be able to leave for a college and venture into the world on my own, away from HBHA, that I'd never be able to fully leave the comfort of my HBHA bubble, where I know everyone and everyone knows me. I knew 4 years ago that I'd eventually have to make some decisions for myself, but that was down the line in a future me problem. I didn't yet see all the potential paths in front of me, even while in my beloved little HBHA bubble. If I had told myself freshman year all the things I would have done by now, I probably would have just stood there in shock. I never thought that I would get into writing articles for Rampage Wired or get into a prestigious program like the Bronfman Fellowship. When I was younger, I didn't want to rock the boat with any of my opinions, or really even thought that anyone would care to listen. But I also have enjoyed the chance to know people as intimately as I do my friends at HBHA. But the excitement lies there too. The excitement of college, of traveling to new places, that amazing feeling of meeting amazing friends for the very first time. It gives me the chance to give a now young adult Tyler the chance of another HBHA all over again. I didn't really want to write a conclusion to this speech because I'm not sure how to properly wrap it up. Most people say that high school is just a chapter of your life and that they're excited to move on to the next one. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. To borrow a term from English, I think life is more like long-form poetry. Sure, there are pauses here and there. The story seems like it goes on forever, but there's also abrupt shifts, typos, and stream of consciousness writing that makes no sense whatsoever. Life isn't so linear, and the path is full of many twists and turns. But there are landmarks across this path. Accomplishments are one of them, but those serve only as a marker. The people that undertake the journey with you, those form the memories that matter. And though we are all now beginning a new trek, with some of us knowing the direction or others letting the path guide us, we might part from each other physically, but we'll always have each other in our hearts along the way. Thank you.
Okay. My time at HBHA has been a very interesting experience, to say the least. I joined kindergarten with 6 of the people behind me, and I would not have wanted to go through these past 13 years with anyone else. Nonetheless, there were times during lower and middle school when I didn't get along with most of my classmates and actively avoided a few of them. On the whole, I am grateful for all the things we've done and been through together, whether it was struggling on the same test because the subject was hard, or traveling around the world to learn more about our Jewish heritage. More recently, I've almost always had fun with this group of people. One memory that was particularly meaningful to me was our 8th grade camping trip. It was the very first time I had ever lived with my classmates. One task that we had to do was set up our own tents without the help of any of the trip leaders, and that took much longer than it should have. We ate, prayed, and cooked food together, and then had to stay up late at night cleaning the mess we made while cooking our 5-star cuisine. I also remember struggling to get out of my sleeping bag during the 20-degree mornings, wondering if I would ever warm up. I didn't. One thing that we still bring up to this day is that the fact that when we were driving and stopped for a bathroom break, we accidentally left Sherelle behind and didn't notice for a few minutes later. Overall, the 8th grade camping trip was a turning point for my relationship with the class. One skill that I've learned throughout my schooling is that I believe I have become more empathetic than the average person. I like to go out of my way to make sure people are heard and don't feel alone in a time of need. I, as well as many of you, have been through some tough situations, quite a few of which I knew that I didn't want to handle by myself. Through the experience of asking for help made me want to ensure that other people wouldn't have to feel the same way I did. And when I was dealing with similar situations as my friends, I am proud of the fact that I learned I would be able to talk it out and they would be there to listen to me. I am grateful that this class has helped me grow as a person and become more empathetic, and I will continue to help people that may feel alone in need of somebody to talk to. Next year, I'll be going to KU along with a couple of my classmates, and I can't wait to keep my friendships while also creating new ones. At KU, I plan to study computer engineering, which excites me because I get to expand my knowledge on my interests, learn things I'm passionate about, and I'll be able to be at the forefront of technology advances, which seems pretty cool to me. With this knowledge, I'll be able to create things in this field in the future, and it is kind of a form of connection to my father because he worked with computers my whole life. Meeting peers who are also studying computer engineering will hopefully be a way to make new friends who have similar interests. In the end, I am so happy to have spent the last 13 years with the people behind me. And some of you may say that they're just my classmates or just my friends, but they're way more than that. They're my family. Thank you.
We're only getting older, baby, and I've been thinking about it lately. Does it ever drive you crazy? Just how fast the night changes. Everything that you've ever dreamed of disappearing when you wake up. But there's nothing to be afraid of.
Back all the way in August of 2021, our class and the rest of the high school went to the Tucker Leadership Lab, a team building event. Seniors at Tucker get to climb up a tower, 45 feet tall. And while one person was climbing, there would be everyone else in the class holding that person up by a rope. And they would all say, "Belay team ready!" And that would be your cue to go up and climb. At first, when everyone climbed, there were people who faced the challenge and others with apprehensions. And after that, everyone was exhausted. So we ate lunch and watched some other people go up the tower. While we just got to chill for a minute or two, Mr. Clower walked up to the table and asked the big question, who wants to go again? This time, blindfolded. At first, there weren't really many people who wanted to go again, but I decided, after seeing Mr. Clower go up the tower blindfolded, why not? Then I thought to myself, why am I even trying to climb blindfolded? But I did it anyways. And it wasn't even that bad for being blindfolded. Everyone was there, belaying at the bottom, helping me out, calling where I needed to go, and I was able to make it to the top using only my sense of touch and their helpful comments below. The whole time I was climbing, I thought to myself, oh no, I'm definitely gonna fall here. But I never did. And even if I had, it wouldn't have mattered because the belay team was there for me and would have caught me had I fallen. When I got to Tucker, I did not expect to try, much yet succeed, at climbing a 45-foot tall tower blindfolded. When I look back at that day at Tucker, I think about what would have happened had I not climbed the tower blindfolded. Sure, there was no great accomplishment or any award for climbing blindfolded, but I wouldn't have had that memory. The memory was more valuable than anything I could have gotten or any prize I could have won. It showed me that I can do what I put my mind to. I told myself that day that I would climb that tower, and I did it. Both being able to make that jump, to try something new, to try to be better at something, to try to do something interesting, but also having people in my life I trust and know that if I do mess up, in whatever I'm trying to do, that they will be there to catch me, either literally, in the case of belaying, or emotionally. Because that is what life is all about. Not only having people there to catch you, but also being there to take care of others in your life. A relationship that goes both ways. Thank you.
This is magic to and fro. Please give me one last show. Loosen my mind from within.
I am here. I'm not entirely sure how, but I made it here today. It's kind of ironic, as I was writing the speech, that I was writing about the future so confidently, as if I knew I would make it this far. I guess if you hear me giving this speech, you'll know for sure. But who knows? I thought that maybe on graduation day, I'll instead have made the choice to be out on a pleasant walk through my neighborhood, or buying out Costco's whole collection of Squishmallows. Maybe I would stay at home and binge the hottest Netflix show, or escape the authorities because of my diabolical heist to steal the world's largest fork. Or maybe I will be in a place unlike anything I could imagine. A place where I wouldn't be able to tell right from wrong, up from down, frantic with confusion. A place where I don't know my true purpose. Throughout high school, I always had something to do. I was always busy, whether that pertained to schoolwork or not. There was always a goal, an objective, somewhere to be. As the years passed by, there seemed to be less and less to do. That sounds ridiculous, right? Going into junior year, I was a part of AP classes in the Social Justice Project. Starting senior year, I then had college applications to fill out and my first job to balance with school. And now, at the culmination of all these sometimes exciting, sometimes boring, and sometimes painful events, there seems to be nothing more. Sure, I'll probably be headed to college, but who am I going to hang out with? What will I major in? Will I like my classes? Will I make it through? And let's say I knock out this whole college thing and graduate. Then what? I'm afraid that school has given me too much purpose, too much to do that I will be in withdrawal from doing things. I imagine that adulthood will be challenging, to say the least. I can't quite remember a time or place where I'm not constantly being guided by advisors and teachers, demanded by assignments and classes. Yes, I surely can't imagine such a thing, but what's to say I need to? Perhaps what I need to force myself to understand is what all of the adults in my life have told me. Overthinking the future will lead to frustration, but making the future happen will lead me to a real purpose. And even if the end result isn't what I fully imagined, it shouldn't matter as much as I believe it will. In all, what I've realized is that every individual is likely to reach an impasse of not knowing the next step. I'm not always going to know for sure, nor have the confidence to say that I know exactly where I'm going to be next year, what I'm going to be doing, and how I will feel at that time. That being said, I truly believe and embrace that it's okay not to know these things, nor can I expect myself to be fully prepared and motivated for everything that's coming. Nonetheless, I'm prepared to learn how to leave HVHA, which gave me all the necessary tools and guidance to become a unique, successful individual as I go into adulthood. Although there is uncertainty, I am left with fond memories. I am left with insightful lessons. I am left with treasured experiences. I am leaving with these past 7 years of fun, love, headaches, bruises, laughs, and all the like. I hope to continue my life with this feeling of uncertainty, ready to finally be on my own and find my true purpose in this vast and exciting world. Thank you.
תל אביב, יא חביבי תל אביב, תסתכל כמה לירדים מסביב, עושים לי היי היי בלילה וואי וואי, וסחטן על תל אביב. תל אביב, יא חביבי תל אביב, תסתכל כמה לירדים מסביב, עושים לי היי היי בלילה וואי וואי, וסחטן על תל אביב.
From a young age, I always thought about what my future would look like, what job I would have, how many friends I would have, and what I would even look like. Up until senior year, I succeeded in gaining a multitude of friends, and my face matured as well. But one thing that I hadn't solved yet was what my career path would be. In fact, I didn't even have a single clue what I wanted to do. I would think late at night and during class, and even voice my thoughts to my friends. What should I do? What would I enjoy? What would make significant money? And what would I be capable of doing? Over the years, I've received many different answers from friends, peers, and adults in my life. These include, but are not limited to, pre-med, veterinary surgeon, data science, and even a NASA aerospace engineer. I mulled over these possibilities, but wasn't satisfied with any, until I met my friend's father for the first time. He's a psychologist. It was abnormally warm for a winter day, so we took a walk around the pond on his property, and as the sun set, he spoke to me all about psychology, about what his career entails, and this is when I realized he was describing the exact thing I wanted to do in life, essentially to help people. Going to HHA meant that I grew up surrounded by a small group of people, unlike having hundreds of people in my grade like in public schools. This also meant I had more time and opportunities to gain closer relationships with my peers, which opened up the door for me to explore my years-long passion, playing therapist for my friends. I would share some of these specific stories, but I'm pretty sure real therapists aren't allowed to do that. But trust me, I'm good at what I do. When I tell people that I'm hoping to earn my doctorate one day, I always hear the same thing. That'll take a whole decade, dude. Do you really have the patience for that? And at first, I was a little discouraged by how long it takes to get a doctorate. But I realized I should still try to pursue it, because if this truly is my passion, those 10 years or so will go by in a flash, much like these last 10 years have gone at HHA. In the psychology class I took at Johnson County Community College, I learned that the human brain only has so much storage in the long-term memory department. Throughout these last 10 years going to HHA, however, I've made and kept so many of these memories. Whether it be meeting the people that are gathered here on this stage, back when I moved here in second grade, to being sent to the principal's office countless times by my own mother, when I was lucky enough to have her as my second grade Hebrew teacher. Or if it's when I was suspended for sneaking into the teacher's lounge after becoming TikTok famous for it. I still had fun here, and I wouldn't change a single thing. I'd like to give a big thank you to all my teachers for tolerating me, to my favorite 2-year-old Daniela and her big sister JJ, who I know will both always be there for me with a smile, and to my mom for helping me grow into the man I am today. Thank you.
Being content with who I am has never been easy for me. Throughout my high school years, I had a very narrow mindset on how I lived my life. Whether it was school, sports, relationships, I strove for perfection and was incapable of settling for less. In doing so, I found myself extremely exhausted. I completely disregarded my mental and physical health, and the price I paid was my own happiness. Did it work? Well, I got the grades I wanted, I made sure everyone around me was pleased, and I took the blame for any mistake that ever arose. But once I finally realized that I was holding myself to unreachable standards and was simply unhappy with the way I was living my life, I understood that it was not worth it. I wanted senior year to be different. While still wanting to achieve academic, athletic, and social excellence, I wanted to focus on enjoying my time, which might sound unchallenging, but in reality was and is still extremely difficult for me till today. Not only did I want to relish senior year, but what I desired most was to build a different relationship with my learning and to become comfortable with failure. I decided that I would push myself out of my comfort zone, and I enrolled in a medical science course through a public school. Here, I could begin pursuing my interest in physical therapy, which I foresee as my future career path. This class proved to be quite different from my typical classroom experiences. In previous years, I likely would not have enrolled in this course out of fear of how different it was from what I was used to doing. But had I not, I would never have gained the abundance of skills, knowledge, and career perspectives that I accumulated throughout this experience. I have grown confident in myself and my abilities, and I am no longer afraid to make mistakes because I now view them as learning opportunities. I've taken ownership over my own learning, and I now see the many aspects of life in a different light. I set myself and my needs as my priorities, and I strive for progress over perfection. I'm continuing my journey to accepting my flaws, which I know will be a lifelong struggle, but I'm ready for the challenge. All of this is not to say that I'm not scared. I'm still extremely nervous about change, and moving on from a period of my life that I feel most comfortable in is very hard for me, but I believe in myself and my ability to overcome this challenge. Thank you.
Time and time again, I have been told by my peers that there is absolutely no way that I am a real person. Of course, I have always been under the assumption that I am real, so being told otherwise seems outlandish. However, if you are told a claim enough times, even if that claim seems ridiculous, you begin to ponder its legitimacy. So, after giving it some thought, I have decided to finally prove to you, once and for all, that I am in fact a real person. There are many ways I could go about proving this. There is, of course, the scientific method, mathematical proofs, philosophical arguments on the nature of reality. But, as this is the Hyman Brand Hebrew Academy, I am going to derive my argument from my personal favorite source of knowledge, the Tanakh. Let's start with my name. Names have deep meaning in Jewish mysticism. In case you didn't know, my last name is Wasserman, which is German for water man. In Bereshit, we are told that God created the world in 7 days. It was on the third day that God created the water, and the sixth day that God created man. If we take the numerical values of these days corresponding with my last name, 3 and 6, and multiply them, we'll get 18. 18, of course, is represented in Hebrew by the letters Het Yud, or Chai, which means life. So, the Kabbalistic implications of the name Wasserman is directly tied to life itself, which I believe is strong evidence that I am alive. And if I am alive, I must therefore also be real. My Hebrew middle name Moshe means to be taken out of the water. So let's again take the day God created water, but this time add it to backwards Chai, 81. 3 plus 81 is 84. And in the Talmud, in Chulin 84b, there is a verse written about water. In this verse, Rabbi Yochanan states, quote, "It is preferable to drink from a cup of witches and not to drink from a cup of lukewarm water, which is extremely unhealthy." Now, what exactly is a cup of witches? I could only think of 2 explanations. It is either a cup provided by witches or a cup made out of witches. But wait, you're probably thinking to yourself, aha, witches aren't real. And to that I say, just because you may have never seen a witch doesn't mean they aren't out there. This also applies to myself, because although I may not seem real to many of you, I am real. Right here and right now, after 13 years of schmagega, I am finally graduating. Thank you.
Man, that's a hard act to follow, Samuel. But by far my funniest conversation ever have been with Samuel, so that's fitting. I am going to invite the parents of the graduates to give them the blessing of the children. So parents, if you can stand up. Graduates, if you can please stand up. The parents of the sons, I will say the Hebrew, you will follow me, and then the parents of the girls, the daughters, and we're going to follow this right here. Yasimecha Elohim ke'Ephraim u'ke'Menashe, for the boys. For the daughters, Yasimech Elohim ke'Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, veLeah. and for all of you together. יברכך אדוני וישמרך. יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך. יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום. Amen. Parents, you may be seated. Students, take your places.
Shalva Esther Balanoff. True to her name, Shalva brings calmness and serenity to our hallways. With her steady smile and gentle manner, she has been creating her future in her designs. And like Queen Esther, she takes matters into her own hands when pursuing those parts of her life for which she has deep passion. Her flair for design and costumes has allowed her to dress characters that are as fancy as a pirate or as subtle as a side character in an HBHA play, but intentional attention to detail and meaning for each person and each scene. I now present Olivia Graham Balanoff.
Gavriela Bell. The name Gavriel, the angel who is a servant of God, serves as a connector between man and God, as a spirit who is able to bridge the physical world and the metaphysical part of our existence. The angel who is a connector between tradition and who we are in the modern world. Gavriel is also known for the ability to bring solutions that are out of the box and original. Gavriela breaks the mold in many ways she has learned about herself and the way you express your personality to others. You are not afraid of the mess of daily living, yet you strive for deep meaning and connection to others in your community. I now present Madeline Olivia Bell.
Adara Rivka Brand. Adara is a derivative of the month of Adar, a month of joy. Adara, with her smile and her good nature, is a shining light in our hallways, always making everyone laugh with her witty sense of humor. It is fitting that you graduate in a leap year where we have 2 full months of Adar joy, as there is no doubt that the light and warmth that you share has certainly more than doubled during your HBHA years. Furthermore, you have brought tremendous joy to your proud teachers and parents due to your incredible growth that you have experienced at HBHA. I now present Audrey Rosemay Brand.
Gili Micha Gerson. Micha was one of the prophets who is known for his charisma and an avid love of God. The charisma and the gil, or joy in Hebrew, is truly who Gili is. While many may see lots of boyish energy and silliness, there is a deep desire to connect with others. And as the prophet Micha states, walk humbly with your God. There is no doubt that when you show humility in your learning, the best of your deep insights come out and can impact others around you in positive ways. Your choice to take next year as a journey for growth is undoubtedly a great way to trust your deepest instincts. I now present Gili Micah Gerson.
Yaakov Asher Anshel Gold. Asher is one of the 12 tribes which uses the olive tree as a sign for the roots that they have in the land and in tradition. Yaakov was a great leader and embodies the value of family and commitment to the covenant with God. When you combine both names and reflect on who our Yaakov Asher is, you can see a light shining through our Jewish history, something which you continue to connect with and understand in new ways. You also have sought true peace in the friendships you have established, not through simple appeasement, but by working through difficult moments towards creating stronger bonds, something that will serve you well as you navigate your future. I now present Jacob Aaron Gold.
Daniel Johnson. Daniel was one of the prophets that was known for explaining people's dreams as his connection with God was divine. The name Daniel also embodies the responsibility that God has for his creation and the belief that he is watching over every single person. Our Daniel dreams big, and he's able to show us how much can be accomplished with just a little bit of inspiration and guidance. Nonetheless, dreamers also experience the occasional setback on your plans. And from this, you have also learned valuable lessons that will enable the greatest of your dreams to come into focus as you begin the next chapter of your journey. There are big shoes to fill as this dreamer leaves HBHA. I now present Tyler Aaron Johnson.
Eitan Chaim Yitzhak Klinak, a strong, stable life full of laughter. Ethan, in your quiet and steady way, you have been adding ruach and chaim, life, to our community. Yitzhak alludes to laughter, happiness, and hope. It is our hope that you continue to be a steady friend who is full of laughter and spirit. You are always able to lighten the mood to those around you, and you are good at not taking things too seriously when it is not warranted. Now it is time to go out and seek out the legacy of your name, your family, and community. I now present Ethan Jackson Klinak.
Aharon Shmaryahu Kol. Aaron was the spokesperson for Moshe and the first great Kohen. Aaron is known for his sense of justice, his wisdom, and meaningful familial relationships. He was also someone who had to figure ways to lead even when others were willing to abandon God's ways. In your time in high school at HBHA, you have slowly become more confident in your own capabilities in being a leader. First for yourself, and then slowly towards others. Like your namesake, you always treat others with incredible respect and show how you value their individual B'Tselem Elohim. I now present Aaron James Cole.
Dennis Krolovich. Dennis, you are one with an old soul in your view of yourself and the world around you, because you have a strong pull toward others' meaning and purpose in your life. Your appreciation for opportunities and gifts that have been given to you are an example to others. Furthermore, you have certainly challenged yourself beyond your comfort zone in many ways in and out of the classroom, with the development of incredible leadership skills. Your mensch-like demeanor will be missed so much at HBHA. I now present Dennis Krolovich.
Shael Itiel Luger. Shael quite literally means the gift of God. It represents joy and happiness and the deep connection that you have to the divine and our traditions. Shael, you love to have fun and find joy in your life, even when the adults are exasperated by some of your choices. Your spirit shines in those moments. Your middle name, Itiel, means God is with me and represents aspirations of growth. These aspirations have flourished in all that you have pursued in the last few years, which has led you to see that you can be a light unto others. We cannot wait to see you continue and grow. I now present Shael Itiel Luger.
Sherelle Rudnick, The Song of God, and although I have not heard Sherelle sing very often, the song that she is weaving around her is a beautiful one, tender and caring. You are drawing people to you with your smile, kindness, and the support that you always offer the people around you. Sherelle lives out her values and deep beliefs in all the choices she makes, and while she sometimes puts undue pressure on doing the right, perfect thing, it is her ability to connect with and value others that is her hallmark and legacy that will be left upon so many at HBHA and in the broader community. I now present Sherelle Rudnick.
Shmuel Moshe Wasserman. Both Shmuel and Moshe were great leaders of the Jewish people. Moshe, who has led us out of Egypt, gave us the Torah, whose life and actions are both miraculous. And Shmuel, the great prophet, who was sanctified by his mother even before he was born. Our Shmuel is a quiet leader, much like Moshe was, who is endlessly funny and witty when your voice and wisdom are shared with others, both in light and more serious moments. Your deep problem-solving and critical thinking skills are a foundation in which your true leadership can evolve and be shared out with the world. I now present Samuel Morris Wasserman.
Families, friends, students, esteemed community members, seniors, here we are. It is time for your commencement speech, the final moments of your primary and secondary school education. You've been alive for 18 years, and 13 of them have been spent in this school, and for most of you, that means this building. We are here at the end of what is probably the single longest and most influential experience of your lives, on the precipice of a new world of adventures and challenges. It is ironic to call this speech a commencement speech. It is a speech that I'm delivering to you at the very end of your education, and yet commencement comes from the word commence, or to begin. This speech then serves as the bridge between what has come before and what you are commencing, life outside of HBHA and all of your adult lives and adventures. The truth is, while it is a great honor to be able to deliver your commencement speech, I find myself somewhat uncomfortable delivering it. It's a lot of pressure. The job is to give you in 5 minutes something so meaningful and special you will remember it forever. Sometimes I can't believe I'm allowed to drive, let alone have children and a job that demands public speaking. I don't mean to be too self-deprecating. I'm living a great life, and I've learned a lot along the way, and yet I'm no billionaire, scholar, rabbi, celebrity, or self-help guru that I have some profound, as yet unspoken wisdom to share with you. What could I possibly tell you that wasn't already mentioned in the 2010 song, Wear Sunscreen? By the way, seniors, if you haven't heard that song, please listen to it. There's a lot of great wisdom for life in there. At times like this, rather than rely on my own wisdom, I look back at the wisdom that came before. Most often that's the Torah, but in this case I'd like to share a little Shakespeare, specifically from the play Hamlet, which is great because I believe you read Macbeth this year, yeah? So even if you don't remember or take seriously any of the wisdom I will share with you today, at least you can say you learned a little Hamlet during your last moments at HBHA. That takes some of the pressure off. At one point in the play, the character Polonius gives a speech to his son Laertes, as Laertes is leaving to go study abroad in France. It is, in a sense, the original commencement speech, a father's best advice to his child as he begins life away from home. It is that same bridge between connecting what has always been into the adventures ahead. I'm going to read this speech, which I have slightly redacted. My sincere apologies to all the hardcore Shakespeare fans, especially my mother. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. Those friends thou hast and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. Beware of entrance into a quarrel, but being in, see that your opposed may beware of thee. Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow, as night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. This is all profound wisdom, and a commencement speech could be written about any one of these lines, but perhaps the most famous of all is the line, to thine own self be true. It's been true over 400 years since this was written. And as far as the relationship between parents and children goes, little has changed. Your parents don't need you to be doctors or lawyers or professors. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have a dermatologist in the family, but okay, to be honest, we parents do have opinions about what direction we'd like to see you go in. We might even have our own vicarious wishes for you. But overall, in all the conversations I've had with parents over decades, what we really want for you is to live happy, healthy lives. We want you to be true to who you are, maximum you. But to leave the commencement speech with this simplistic view would be trite, cheesy, and even dishonest. To thine own self be true. Sounds great in theory, but what about in practice? Every night I want to eat a huge bowl of fettuccine Alfredo and drink Dr. Pepper in front of the TV. But every morning I wish I could run a mile without stopping. Right now I'd like to buy a fancy watch and an electric truck, but the me of tomorrow needs me to save money for retirement. Let's make it more difficult. What would you do upon graduating from college if you wanted to travel the world, but you were in a serious and meaningful relationship in which your partner didn't want you to leave? Would it be worth sacrificing your dream of traveling or giving up on a person you love and loves you? We are faced with these decisions every day. Our conflicts are often not with others, but with ourselves. So what does it mean to be true to yourself? This is where even more ancient wisdom comes in, Jewish wisdom, Baruch Hashem. In Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Ben Zoma taught, Ezehu Gibor HaChovesh et Yitzro. Who is mighty? The one who conquers his desires. In Proverbs it states, Nivchar Shem me'osher rav. A good name is better than great wealth. As you leave home, you will find a world without rules and guidance. You're about to find yourselves with freedom beyond your comprehension. It sounds wonderful, right? But I'm reminded of a dear friend who had to drop out of college my freshman year because he became obsessed with bridge. Was he being true to himself, staying up all night playing bridge and skipping class? There's no argument to be made for it. But was he conquering his desire? Definitely not. What I'm getting at is that life is complicated and full of compromises and sacrifices. Yes, we all want you to be happy and become the best you can be. But part of this is in you knowing that you're able to make the best decisions, even decisions that you don't like right now. As you move on to this phase of your life, it doesn't seem enough to tell you to simply be true to yourself. Be true to yourself, but always remember there is nothing more important than keeping your good name. Always behave in which you are proud of your decisions, and act in every moment as if there are no secrets, nothing unhidden, nothing hidden. Never risk your good name with acts you can't be proud of. And remember that what you want right now might not be what you needed you to do tomorrow. Respect your future self as much as your present desires. Ladies and gentlemen, you have what you need. You are surrounded by dear friends that you should keep close to you with hoops of steel. You have family that loves you. You have healthy young bodies to sustain you. You have curious and aggressive minds capable of learning any subject. But you also carry with you your own worst enemies, yourselves. You have the power to achieve great things, and I expect you will. But you will also get in your own ways. You will sometimes be lazy, cruel to yourself, or follow your base desires. It's not a wish or a promise. It's just human nature. But I want to remind you to what Abraham Lincoln called our better angels. Be kind to yourselves and others. Forgive your mistakes and the mistakes of others. Promise yourself you will do better and do better. To thine own self be true, and make for yourself not just a name, not just a great name, but a good name. We believe in you and we are so proud of you. At this time, I'd like to call forward the class of 2022. Having fulfilled the rigorous requirements of an HBHA education, I pronounce you graduates of the Hyman Brand Hebrew Academy. You may move your tassels from right to left. Congratulations to the graduates of the class of 2022.